Hi everyone, it's Sandy and today I'm doing my January wrap-up. This month I've read 10 books, which is a really great start to 2015 since my reading goal this year is 100 books, just like it was last year. The first two books that I read are The House of Hades and The Blood of Olympus by Rick Riordan. This is the fourth and fifth book in the Heroes of Olympus series. I give The House of Hades 5 stars and I give The Blood of Olympus 4.5 stars. I don't really have much to say since I don't want to spoil anyone who hasn't read the series yet, but I love this series and I love all the characters and I'm pretty satisfied with how it ended. Within minutes of finishing the last book, I started missing all the characters already, so I'm gonna miss the series. I'm glad that I finally finished the series because I've been wanting to read and finish it for a really long time. The next book that I finished is I Was Here by Gail Forman. This is actually an ARC that I received in late September when I went to a book event, but I kind of forgot that I owned this book until I started seeing a bunch of pictures of people like hauling this book or like posting it on Instagram, and I was like, oh yeah, I have this book. Before reading this, I knew that the book was being released in January, so I decided that I should read it before it came out. This book is about a girl named Cody whose best friend Meg commits suicide, and Cody had no idea why she did it. It just happened, and basically throughout the book, Cody is trying to figure out what led to Meg's suicide. I didn't really like the characters in this book, but I did really like the storyline. I love the relationship between Cody and her mother and how it developed throughout the story. There was one thing that happened during the last 50 pages or so of this book, and I felt like it was a bit unnecessary, and I can't really say what it is because I feel like it would be a spoiler. Hopefully, if you read this book, you know what I'm talking about. And overall, this was a really touching story that made me tear up towards the end, and I would give this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next three books that I read are part of a trilogy, and it is the Slam trilogy consisting of Slammed, Point of Retreat, and This Girl by Colleen Hoover. Slammed is about a girl named Lakin who moves to a new state, and she meets this guy. They go out on a date and they instantly click, but then something happens that kind of prevents them from being together, and I'm not going to say what happens, though you do find out about it pretty early into the book, but I'm not going to say it. And if you didn't know, Slammed has to do with slam poetry, and I'm not really a poetry person, but I did really enjoy this book. I really love the sibling relationship between Lakin and her brother Kel. There's a pretty big age difference between them, but I loved how they got along and how they just interact with one another. And I really love the romance. The romance was a bit insta-love, but the way Colleen Hoover dealt with it made me really enjoy it, so I didn't mind it as much. If you've read a Colleen Hoover book, you know that her books are very emotional and they make you cry, they make you feel all these different types of feelings, basically all the feels. And overall, I give Slammed a 4.75, Point of Retreat a 4.5, and This Girl a 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I read Uninvited by Sophie Jordan. This book takes place in a world where there's this kill gene, and our main character, Davy, is pretty much like a prodigy. She's really smart, she's very talented and gifted. And then she gets tested positive for HTS, which stands for Homicidal Tendency Syndrome, which means basically sometime in the future she's going to kill someone. I thought the concept of this book was really intriguing and I flew through it within a couple of days. I was a bit meh on the romance. It wasn't something that I enjoyed and it felt like it happened fast and it felt forced. I really like Davy as a character, especially in the second half of the book, because she had this perfect life and then this DNA test basically changes everything, and I love the way she adapted and behaved towards everything that came in her way. And overall, I would give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book, I think, is coming out in February, and it's a duology, I believe, so I'm really excited for that and I can't wait to read it. The next book that I read is The Infinite Seed by Rick Yancey. This is the second book in the fifth wave, and honestly, I didn't really enjoy this book as much. I had trouble getting into it, and for a majority of the book, I was just confused as to what was going on. But despite that, I really love the characters. The characters are my favorite part of the story. And overall, I give this book a 3 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read is For Real by Allison Cherry. This is Bookbuster's January read, and by the time I upload this video, we would have already had the live show, so I will link the live show down below. This book revolves around two girls, Claire and Miranda. They're sisters. One day, Miranda discovers that her boyfriend is cheating on her, and she wants to get revenge. And Claire comes up with the idea to audition for a reality TV show that is just like The Amazing Race, except in this book it's called Around the World. I thought this was a really fun, light, and cute read. I really like the Amazing Race concept since I've never read anything like it before. Some of the characters did annoy me, but in a way their behaviors were understandable. I really liked how this book focused more on the sister relationship rather than like a romance. Claire and Miranda are like total opposites. Miranda is very outgoing, she likes going to parties, while Claire is really shy and likes to keep to herself. And that is why I could really relate to Claire. And I liked seeing her character develop throughout the story. I wasn't totally captivated by this book, but I still really enjoyed it, and I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars. And the last book that I read in January is The Murder Complex by Lindsay Cummings. This book takes place in a world where the death rate is higher than the birth rate, so lots of people are being murdered, and our main character Meadow is a trained survivor. So she's trained by her father to fight and survive. There are mixed reviews on this book, but I personally really liked it. I love how action-packed it was. If you are into the whole action-packed storyline, this is definitely a book that you should consider reading. I really like Meadow's character. She's definitely a fighter. She's really strong, and I loved how she can fend for herself. Like, she doesn't need anyone to protect her. She can take care of herself. My main problem would be the romance. It just felt rushed and insta-love-ish. I am really interested in knowing what happens next, and I would give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. That is all for my January wrap-up. If you've read any of these books, let me know in the comments below so we can talk about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Bye!